What's that? I'll go sit somewhere.
Hey Vivek. Hey Vivek, are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Hey, uh, record.
I think Abhishek just got dropped off. Yeah, he's back.
Abhishek, you're on mute if you're speaking.
You're on mute, yeah.
All right. I will just like wait for a minute and then like kickstart this to just give you an idea of what we're trying to do here. I think just like this is a very informal conversation about like what we're all as B2B marketers doing and like just exchanging challenges, just like going through a very general discussion, general exchange of notes on like what you're doing on ABM or what you're doing on the B2B marketing front. And we'll just like share what we are doing. And I think if you have questions, we can answer. That's what the format is going to be. And I'll just like introduce you to the group. Gagi works with us, and she heads our ABM program. Arun, you might have already spoken to him. Sanat also works with Ignite ABM. Sanat and Devjit, both of them work with Ignite ABM, so they consult with Ignite ABM. Vignesh and Akash and me, like we work in the GTM team at Recruitab. Vivek works at one sec. Hey Arun, lot of disturbance from your side, man.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And introduce you to the last guest. Vivek works at DemadnGen Systems. I'll just let Vivek intro for a while, and then I think we can just get this conversation started. Vivek, why don't you like just give us a brief intro of what you're doing, and I think, and then we'll take it
Sure.
from there.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Hi, Arun. Good to see you again. Thanks for having me here. I lead the growth marketing for Indigene, which is more of ABM, demand generation, and also marketing operations, if you may. So, from an ABM perspective, we are uh, looking to build on the momentum ITSMA methodology of relationships, revenue, and reputation. Uh, from a demand generation perspective, we are looking at our long tail accounts and white space where we have minimal presence, how to get an uplift in terms of our engagements and convert that into revenue and conversations. And from a marketing operations, it's more of all the MarTech and all the lead tracking and progression, all the dirty work, if you may, in terms of justifying marketing's existence on the planet, right? So that is what we do from a marketing operations point of
Cool, Vivek. So, Vivek, I mean, if you've been on LinkedIn for a while,
Great.
Uh,
That last statement made all of us smile.
It's a Friday, we should be smiling, right?
yeah, yeah. Hey, so Vivek, I mean, like this is like a raging debate about like demand gen versus ABM. Like, I just want to understand like where you stand on that. Like, is it like a versus or like what do you think?
So you may call it a tempered thinking, but I think that uh, it depends on what you are playing. Are you playing the test match or are you playing the one day, right? So if you are playing the test match and you have the stamina and the skill to take it session by session, you'll go with ABM because you're looking at, okay, reading the pitch, reading the bowling, uh, what is an ideal score, what should be the first two three things that we do. We should be leaving the balls outside the off stump and playing what is coming. I'm sorry if it is very cricket analogy, but IPL is going on, and I'm in actually Lucknow today, and there is a Chennai versus Lucknow match today. So I am kind of, uh, you know, so that is ABM. So ABM is where you can, for me, ABM is best used where we already have a presence, where we have hit a ceiling, where we are finding a saturation, and then how we grow from there. What are the new green shoots that we can see? So you already have a big operation ongoing, but what more can you do? To because you have a lot of learning behind ABM when you launch your program with accounts. You have learning, you have past successes, you have a very granular detailing of the data of the client sentiment, of your sales team sentiment, right? And that is where it works best. Demand generation is that is the brute force part. I mean, you are in the last 3 overs of a T20 and you just go hammer and tongs. You don't care whether you get run out, whichever way, reverse sweep, front, back, whatever sweep, whatever works. Surya Kumar Yadav in full flow, right? And now Ashutosh Sharma, as we saw yesterday, right? So maybe you'll hit a Bumrah for a six as well, and then you think that's the new ABM. So it's easy to get, again, I'm oversimplifying maybe, but demand generation for me is brute force. Try every channel, get in front of accounts or clients as much as possible, create that brand recall, uh, just get them to meet, just get them to have a discussion over the table, just get a lead is my definition or an outcome of a demand generation model. So for me, actually, it's very clear. Even internally, I stick to this thing. It keeps me grounded on what I am doing.
Very interesting. I love the way that you use cricket because we're all like big cricket fans. At least some of us are like me. And yeah, I think sometimes we can hit Bumrah for a six, and that happens in demand gen. So Sanath, I mean, I'll just like ask the same question. Sanath, I mean, what are you seeing on from a client perspective, right? I mean, what are you seeing is happening on that front? Like, are are more clients looking at demand gen and ABM as separate channels, or what's happening?
Yeah, so I think from our interaction with clients, the understanding is uh, typically clients see ABM as something which is very specialized, right? But I would say these are two sides of the same coin in the sense, right? So so as Vivek said, right? So demand gen typically kicks in where the client really wants to have those leads coming in, but the old school playbook of doing a spray and pray typically doesn't lead or yield that results, at least the qualitative results that clients expect, right? Because in B2B environment, those leads typically mean qualified conversations with some senior decision maker who has 20 years of experience, right? So you will not find them download a ebook and then they're ready to talk. So I think so here basically what happens, the demand gen as we know it becomes just an entry point, and that creates a marketing captured leads as against a marketing qualified lead. Once you have marketing captured leads, then the ABM part actually kicks in, and that's what clients are also seeing. That it's very difficult for someone to fill a form, and then you say okay, confidently, okay, fine, we have a MQL, let's celebrate and let's just go bonkers on it. So sometimes nothing happens. They download a white paper, then they just ghost. They will not even respond to your emails. that playbook is broken. So basically that becomes an entry point, and then you, as Vivek said, right, you kind of read the scores, you read the ball, you do everything, but then do it at a fairly high level. You don't really have to go very specific, but maintain the context of that particular captured lead or interaction, and that context itself helps drive that account centricity in downstream conversations. So I think that is what is a realization which is gradually setting in clients that we are working with.
So quality over quantity is becoming important.
Yeah.
Interesting. Like, I mean, again, like this question to Devjit, like what do you see is actually, I mean, on ground, what is changing uh, on how clients are actually looking at ABM? Like, I understand the demand generation is changing a little bit, but what do you see are like, major shifts that you are seeing?
The most important shift which I have found is the thing that you mentioned is quality over quantity, right? That is where the clients are shifting their mind towards, right? So demand gen is more of quality and less of quantity. That is what I've seen. But ABM, when you target specified accounts, you know which of the accounts you're going to target, right? And you expect the conversion in return from those accounts, right? Or you convert particularly those accounts. That is when quality comes out. So I won't say everyone, but most of the clients or most of the brands in India, right, are shifting this mindset of getting like lots of leads, 90% of no use, whereas targeting like 10 leads or 10 accounts and converting those accounts, right? Now, here comes another thing. The thing that the statement I liked about that Vivek mentioned is playing the test match and T20, right? So, like for example, we are working with a South Korean mobile app security client, right? Who are into mobile app security. So we are handling a part of the demand generation as well as we are doing ABM. Now, when it comes to demand generation, we are mostly handling the paid ads, mostly in Google. So we are generating good number of leads from there, but 95% of those leads are of no use, right? Whereas in ABM, we are in a stage right now where we are focusing more on the awareness and we are playing a test match, right? Now, the best thing about this client is the mindset. They understand that it's a long-term game. So that is where the shift is going towards. And it's going to happen, ABM is going to be the only option for B2B brands in the next, I would say, next 6 months or 1 year. That is what I've found.
Interesting. Thanks, Devjit. I mean, this is very, very, very weird to say this in a T20 era. The test match is going to be the next big thing. Uh, But yeah, I mean, yeah, again, just a quick question again. Back to you, Vivek. So like, here is what we are seeing, right? I think this okay. ABM started with like hey, pick an account and then like go after them and all of that stuff. But that go after them has become so deep these days. Like hey, there's like so many different channels out there. Like you've got to go email, you've got to do paid ads, you've got to use intent, you've got to use G2 intent, you've got to use LinkedIn DM, you've got to use LinkedIn organic. Like how has this plethora of options, how has it changed your thinking in terms of how to approach ABM?
Yeah, great question. And really like everyone's inputs over here. And I think the statement that Devjit said that it's going to be the era of ABM in B2B marketing. I mean, completely agree. However, we'll see multiple variations of that. And to answer, I mean, just a comment on what you said. I mean, in an era of T20, people going back to test match, but that is what is happening, right? You look at basketball, it is a phenomenon in test, right? No one talks about basketball in T20. They talk about
Correct.
basketball in test match, right? So they're spicing things up. Sorry, coming back to the point, I'm talking too much cricket and too less ABM, right? So I, and this is again, I'm talking about my philosophy. I won't talk of how we do generally ABM at large. Everyone do it. When I started doing ABM, I was working with a client partner for one of the biggest clients of my company at that point of time. So I sat with her, and she actually explained to me what ABM means. This is a client partner who is like a salesperson for the past 20 years, top of the line salesperson, very generous lady. And she said that you have to know your customer. And I know where you think I am going. But what she said was, you have to identify 20-25 people. You have to ask them what channels are they comfortable with. Do they like email? Do they like Slack? Do they like LinkedIn? Is it okay that I connect with you? You always have to be humble and empathetic and sensitive to them, right? So ABM today has become a bit of a spamming thing also with some companies, by the way. Let me tell you that, because they identify an account and they just keep sending things out. That's not ABM at all. ABM is selecting 20, I mean, simplify. ABM is nothing but simplification. Because how will you do a targeted approach unless you simplify, right? And then you are in constant touch. You use the language they use. Yeah, you work with them on their problems, on their channels also, right? So she really laid it out very well, and that was her success mantra in sales. I think that's worked in ABM also. There is no point in sending LinkedIn in mails and all those kind of things in people to accounts and all, where where they are not interested. I mean, so you have to talk to them, communicate. I mean, talking is the best thing. Knowing or even understanding, and approaching it from a very humble point of view. I don't know anything. Can you tell me? So, I mean, the generally a sales guy, hey, I opened this deck, and even marketing is like that. We are the best in the world. We work with 20 of the 50 rocket manufacturers in the world. We made a part that took the rocket to the moon. Those are the kind of marketings that we do. But do you want to go to the moon? Right? I mean, you never ask. In ABM, it is completely different. I mean, so that is because I believe in one-on-one ABM. I cannot talk about one to many and one to few. When I say ABM, I'm very saying one to one. One account manage, one sales team, a couple of marketing managers, a few creative folks, a few performance marketing, focusing on one account, because that's how you combine everything. Right. So that is my point of view on one-on-one ABM. I try to stick to that as much as I can, but that's ideal scenario.
Interesting. So we need more Yashasvi Jaiswals who can hit sixers in a baseball and also come back and do a T20. So how do you hide like
We
very
to with due respect to everyone, we need more Sachin Tendulkars.
okay. So that's almost an
I'm
impossible task.
an old school guy. That's why ABM is impossible. That's why we need Sachin Tendulkar. ABM is impossible if you look at it from a definition perspective. People lose patience very quickly. The only that is the biggest challenge to face ABM, and I know you would probably comment later, is patience. It's not resources, it's not thinking, it's not strategy, it's patience.
So okay. Let me ask you this hypothetical question, Vivek. I think because it's just continuing this, right? Assuming that you come across someone like uh, who's under pressure. Let's just say most marketing managers today are under pressure to deliver X result, for example, and they kind of identify it as a longer term strategy that ABM is actually going to be like a really good fit. But as a short term strategy, like you have XYZ working on demand gen, may work, may not work, kind of a thing. In this kind of a scenario, like how would you like actually uh, approach this actually? Like how would you take this?
So, what are the results you are looking in this situation? What are the results, outcome?
Okay. The outcome is going to be somewhat tied to revenue. But also, I think the sales is also behind your back in terms of like, hey, I need some leads that I can speak with, some qualified leads I can speak with. So it's a mix of both, which is probably going to be most of the cases that we speak with.
See, I mean, again, I mean, obviously, the answer here and in a real life scenario may vastly differ, right? I arrive at this answer with probably what my experience has been, right? So, the if you, I mean, again, it's a very bookish thing, but if you have a working relationship with a sales guy, in an account. Just a working relationship. I'm not even saying Pali and I am your brother and kind of thing. Just a working relationship. It is easy for you to tell them that why don't we revisit what we had produced, because there's the, if you haven't produced anything so far, nothing, I mean, you should not be in your job only, is my opinion, right? So can we revisit what happened with each of the leads? Because see, for sales guys, marketing leads are a tap. I mean, I haven't come across any sales guy who has revisited a marketing lead. They would have definitely revisited the people they know, whom they have interacted with. They are ongoing this, but a marketing lead is a one-trick pony for them, right? So my first would be we market capture. I think Sanat mentioned that marketing captured lead. That's a very nice term, Sanat. I was thanks for sharing that. So what is the status today? And we do that, by the way. A lot of teams do that. A lot of good in B2B SaaS. That's a prevalent thing, right? So one is that okay, can we revisit that? Do you need another piece of asset? What is the quickest thing that I can get for you? Because here speed is of the essence, right? While we do that, let me also talk to Arun and some other agency where we do content syndication with that. If there is some more amount of data that is available that we can probably buy and get going at this point of time, I will, some resource that I have put in, some budget, I'll put it into this opportunistic exercise. But don't but you clear what kind of things are you going, because what happens is that sometimes salespeople try to fill their pipeline with everything, right? It's like because they are selling and I mean, I haven't come across as a seller who sells like an entire portfolio. They in fact show the portfolio and they actually force or negotiate their way with the client so that the client starts refusing things and they come to the highest value or the highest. A smart sales guy works like that. He goes on, he or she goes with elimination rather than selection. So that end of the day, when you have arrived at, you have logged it in. There is no way going out because you removed everything else. So I mean, most of the time, what I have observed is this. So you have to work that. You have to build some working relationships with sellers, and then things are slightly more. I won't say not under pressure, but you can arrive at a mutually beneficial scenario. But yeah, you have to try everything. There has to be some paid leads. There has to be some syndication. There has to be who visited your events. Can we go back to them? Kind of a thing. That's the answer in my head right now.
Thanks, Vivek. I think that brings us to a very important topic in terms of sales and marketing alignment. I think just wanted to give you a sense of how we do our own ABM. I think we are an ABM platform and all, but I think to be really honest, I think we've started our own ABM program about 8-9 months ago, and we've fairly struggled with our own ABM program. But I think one thing that I think we've done well, and I think I would like Gargi to speak a little bit on this, is the sales and marketing alignment in terms of which account we are going after. And I think just share a few words on how we do the alignment and like whatever your thoughts are on this, Gargi.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, guys. So, yeah, I do ABM for Ecotap, and I sit in the same office as our sales team. So, we have a small room. We're constantly in communication. If I'm looking at new accounts, I'm going through the intent data. I'm going through everything in detail, right? Website visits, account by account. And even with the accounts we have already had demos with, I'm constantly in communication with them. Okay, this account visited us again. This account was sent a DM yesterday. They have, so that's one thing that has helped us a lot. Another thing is we do daily calls, daily morning sync ups, weekly ABM reviews, where we review everything, each stage of the ABM program, each account level things. So I think that sort of has been a huge, how would I put this? It has been a huge thing even for us in terms of how the salesperson thinks or how we, as the marketing team, we think. Um, and yeah, so I think this sort of a coordination has really got us a couple of good leads as well, a couple of good opportunities as well, and able to also uh, nurture them throughout the pipeline acceleration, right? So yeah, that's how we are doing it here right now.
Thanks, Gargi. So So I mean, let's just like touch upon a little bit about like what Vivek said. I think I like your comment on this, Sanath. I think this is what Vivek said. I think he said like one seller, a couple of marketers, one creative guy put together, and then like these people start to form a good team. So from a creation perspective, right? I mean, how do you approach creating what kind of content? Like, how do you structure that as a process?
Right.
Because I've seen you do this multiple times, and I just want to like learn from you on how do you actually start?
The starting point is basically getting that account context to what, and it all rolls back to what Vivek said, right? Um, so, for example, in one of our clients, with one of our clients, what we are doing, their ABM typically means targeting those 20 accounts that they're chasing this quarter, right? Just that. And in those 20 accounts, what is the history, past conversations, current conversations, behavior at a stakeholder level. So we do a proper account-based stakeholder mapping. So this account has 5 stakeholders: champion, decision maker, executive sponsor, blocker, and all of that. Right? Once we have that factored in, that context factored in, then we create a. So then we decide the narrative, because now here it sounds a lot of work, but what happens? There's a layering involved, which means that uh, typically this will be a challenge solution story for every company where we pitch, but this has to be tweaked a bit as compared in terms of the challenge that they're facing and the solutioning, how it fits and how the solution is the hero bit. So the narrative zeroing down is a second layer of it. Once that happens, then comes a form factor, right? And the touches that again as Vivek said, you know it's not that every time we need to produce a PDF or every time we need to do a LinkedIn DM as a playbook step by step. Maybe if a particular client is comfortable with just email and then followed up with a call, that is what we do. So it could simply mean maybe some stakeholders just email, basic content in the email. What is value prop? Why should bother and all of that, and follow it up with a message or a text, right? And then there are some stakeholders who are like champions who would bother to read our asset, right? So that is where maybe we would get into the content creation mode. And then comes the personalization layer, that okay, we know the messaging, we know the narrative, we built a base content asset, whatever the form factor. Then we relate with personalization. So for us, personalization means typically at a stakeholder level. So how do we, uh, you know, for example, if we are doing a fact sheet, right? A fact sheet would have 80% scanned standardized content, but 20% it should speak to the stakeholder. Right? So this end-to-end process, what we are putting in place is a templatization process that we're putting in place, where we have the design templates, where we have the canned content, and when we have some uh, a perception metrics in place, where we know okay, if it's a champion in a food industry, this is what we should typically go to them. If it's a champion in a dairy industry, this is what we should go to them. So this prep part is the elaborate underlying part. But once that is in place, what we're able to deliver is a consistent experience, right? So we don't sway much in how we tell our stories. It's a brand consistent experience at a account and a stakeholder level. I don't know. I just went into a
No, I
monologue.
think if I had to put it in the cricketing terms, I think playing in the V. I mean, with a proper V. I mean, no cross-batted shots. Like play the proper V, and I think you'll get your runs. That's the idea there. So just like shift gears a little bit, right? I think we've been talking a little bit about strategy, tactics, and all of this. So let's actually hear from like our CEO, Arun. Like, things are changing. Like I think let's just face it. I think AI is here, and I think things are changing. However slow they may be, however fast they may be, but I think things are shifting. And there are some observations that Arun has been like he's been closely working with the leaders of the AI industry, thought leaders, and all of these folks. And I just want to hear about like what do you think is actually changing, and what do you think will change?
Yeah, I think AI, of course, it impacts in multiple layers, but when we speak software, I think the way we consume software right? Especially in SaaS, for example, if you take that, right? And I think that in itself is changing. So it's no more around building something and then giving it to customers and then saying, you go and then figure out how to make best use of it, right? And I think and a lot of people are talking around how the SaaS, the expansion of SaaS itself is changing from software as a service to service as a software, right? Now, how do you like deliver an outcome, right, through a combination of human AI and any other tools or anything that you've traditionally used? And I think that is, I think this is the second time I'm sort of talking about the same topic today, right? Which is a very fundamental shift, right? So in terms of how I think that the whole industry is going to evolve, right? So how do we build something today? If you're building something, right, it's no more the ancient thinking of, okay, I do some user research and I have some hypothesis. I have come from this background. You build this and then put it out and then try and then go market to this specific set, right? Who would buy and and then hopefully they'll make best use of it. Otherwise, just support them with some customer success activities and things like that. And I think that's a model that has worked reasonably well for the last 10, 12 years. But I think when things like a disruption that we are facing right now, I think we're getting, I think we don't have to I think Vivek talked about Sachin. I think we can get a lot more Sachin produced, right? Because of the cloning capabilities that we have. Now, the challenge still remains how do we make best use of Sachin, right? You can't have 11 Sachins, right? And then you still have to have the right combination and things like that. I'm very actively thinking about the shift, the swapping of the SS and the implications of what that would be, whether you're from marketing, whether you in general the GTM side of things, also product and other supporting functions.
I just asked this because I just wanted to like plug in a small thing that we are trying to do. I think we are trying to plug in a lot of AI into the product, and I think also fundamentally we're trying rethinking the entire product around AI. So I think I just wanted to like bring that thought up. So I think
Can
on the AI, sorry,
I
go
just
ahead.
have a couple of comments, right, to what Vivek was talking about, the composition of team, and he was talking about the one-on-one way of doing ABM, right? I think this makes perfect sense, and that's the only way to do it if you're in an enterprise, right? If you're in a Fortune 10 company, Fortune 5 company like an IBM, but uh, as we've experienced, this is a framework that can be done for Fortune 5 and it can also be for Fortune or non-Fortune companies, right? The experience that you may have had in IBM is not going to be the same in terms of the resources that you have, right? So the kind of team that you would have in IndiGene, right? If that is the case, right? Again, like you can like wait and watch and like play a slow game because it's a test match if you're playing in Eden Gardens versus somewhere else where you're like Bangalore, you're playing a T20, which is let's say take indigenous a T20, right? Now you can't say I need like 10-member team and then I'll only go one account after the other, or I'll have 10 parts of this and then I'll go. I know this is a must-win account, right? I need to go after, and I'm pretty sure that if I do it, and if you let me do it for 10 months, I'm pretty sure I can convert. But I think that's this is an argument that's not going to sort of buy in, right? Obviously, there is some sort of a cover where if you have a decent demand gen program that's running and the existing process sort of helps in buying that time, right? In typical SaaS companies, even that is like especially the early stage, maybe a million, 2 million sort of a company, they don't have that cushion, right? Now, if you have to plug in something like ABM into the overall GTM mix, that approach may not be applicable. So I was just wondering, like, how do you approach, and how do you think people should approach getting ABM into their marketing or GTM mix?
Thanks, Arun. Yeah, completely agree. It's more of a question of resources. But and again, maybe I'm just talking like a broken record. So at some instance, marketing has to take a stand with sales, with enterprise, with leadership, right? Because marketing also has a C-suite. It's different story, right? So So one way of doing it is that you have to show the vision or the North Star, that what is your revenue mix? How many accounts you want contributing three times what they are contributing today? They would have a sense of that. They have arrived at this level. So they are smart people. People who hire us are much more smarter than us. That's my belief, right? And I have been lucky so far. Touch wood.
It's actually the
So,
other way around, right? And the teaching that we get is like you hire smarter people than who you are, right? If you're
but Sachin will always say that Achrekar was smarter than him because he taught him, right? So,
Mhm.
so one is that you have conviction in, okay, this program I will run and I'll get you there. So, when I had this realization was when I came in, and the founder who hired me asked me, what is your vision for, show me your vision for ABM on a slide. What do you think ABM program for Indigene will look like 5 years from now? So that actually blew me away. That's the level of the thinking, right? So, and then then once you have them on board, it is slightly easier, that okay, I will do this for this much resources I'll allocate for this vision for you, right? So they are on board. But at the same time, what you said also was equally important, because okay, this is the vision, but what we are doing now today, right? So there you find areas of convergence. So for example, you take service lines in 10 accounts, where again, to Sanat's point, you don't have to customize or curate the content that much. You can take templates, in industries, however, the reports may say 80% of the problems are chronic, they are across. Only 20% will be some very specific ones. How do you solve those 20% chronic problems better than others is where you win. And that is the messaging that you'll have to articulate. Do a bit of more building a muscle in terms of account and relationships. In some accounts you will go by relationships, in some accounts you will go by brute force. Again, you'll employ that mix. But by coming to the first point, at some point marketing does have to take a stand, that if you want to do ABM, it has to be in a certain way, else let's not call it ABM. I get really this thing about bugged about a non-ABM things being called ABM, or some other version of ABM. Or, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just old school, but that was my this thing. So completely agree with you. But at the same time, somewhere we have to just say कि either stop this program, or let it run for a fair amount of time to see that.
Interesting. So, Nitya, this is a question for you. I think it's just like just just digging into what Vivek just said. Just trying to understand, like you've got to know the account well. You've got to understand them like really well. Is becoming sales's best friend the only way to do account research, or is there better ways? Like, can you just like, I mean, like, are you like a nerd? Like, I mean, can we be like a nerd? I just like sit on a computer and I want to do every account research by myself. Is that even possible? What have you said?
I think sales should be. I mean, you have to make sales not only while researching account but also while selecting the accounts, right? uh, and also to take insights about the target market, or the set of accounts or the segment of account the sales team are already targeting, right? They're the best guys I've seen, right? The info that they have, which type of clients or which type of accounts, and what is the response from which type of accounts, where the resistance comes from, who are the end users mostly, who are the influencers, the blockers. This insights, the best insights come from the sales team, and to some extent the customer success team as well, right? That is what I have experienced. So, I mean, the alignment between the marketing and the sales team in ABM is, according to me, is the most important thing. I give you an example, a very recent example, today's example. So, we are running ABM campaigns for one of our client first, right? Now, we have already started running the campaign from the beginning of this week, right? And the strategy was, as soon as we start the campaign, mostly through the paid channels, the sales team is gonna start engaging with those target persona in the target accounts on LinkedIn or through emails. Now the campaign has got a good response. We have got like good number of visits and clicks on those ads, but there's no downloads, right? There's no downloads, there's no conversion to the campaign, right? What we, what me and Arun, in our own analysis, what we discovered is that we are just targeting accounts through only one single channel, and the sales team doesn't even know what we are doing. You know, they're not aware of the entire ABM strategy that we have made. I mean, of course, there has been some miscommunication between the client. I mean, from the client's end, right? Now, if this would have, I mean, if this entire strategy would have happened according to what we plan, is start the engagement from the time the ad campaign had started, the scenario would have been different, right? So this gap has affected this campaign, and this was a very important campaign for the client. Right now, the client has realized today, yes, we should have done this, and yes, we are gonna just assign an SDR who's gonna start doing this. So this is why the sales and marketing alignment is very important. The sales team should know what, starting from why they are doing ABM, which type of account they are targeting, who are the target personas, what is the messaging, when the ad is going to start, what is the messaging on the ads, what is the messaging on the emails, why they are doing this. Everything should be aligned, and that is what I have seen in my past experience when I was working full time as well. So, sales and marketing is very important, very important. Yeah.
Thanks, Jimjit. Sanath, I mean, this has been a thought in my mind for for a while now. Okay, you see that a lot of younger folks are now occupying leadership positions, and I think this is bound to happen, right? And these folks have grown up in a completely different generation. They do not want to talk to salespeople. Like I think a bunch of these folks are like, hey, I'll text, I'll not even pick a call. Like I mean, that's the kind of generation that we're talking about. What's happening in these accounts? Like if you have to go after these accounts, like I mean, does the model of marketing bringing in the leads and sales go talk to them, does it still hold true? I mean, do you think this is going to be the case like 5, 10 years down the line, or do you think the buying behavior in itself is going to change? Like, what are you seeing? What any signs that you've seen? Just let us know.
So that's a very interesting point that you picked up. And I went to a recent Forrester predictions event, which happened in Bangalore a couple of months back. And this is the exact point that they brought out, that the demographics of the CMO is changing in some of the new age companies, right? When I say new age companies, typically enterprises, still have, CXOs, sorry, CMOs of certain, of maybe certain demographics. But many of the startups, and I would say mature startups, growth stage companies, they typically have CMOs in the younger generation, I would say millennials. I would say Gen Z, but millennials for sure. So now, uh, because of which, how they, the touch points that are relevant to them, that has changed. For example, the touch point and the engagement behavior has changed, right? Which means that content has to be, or experience, I would say experience has to be more self-serve and more digital and more connected. So these three themes are the prevalent themes. But having said that, uh, this is and just to kind of qualify that point, I read an interesting Gartner report, which said that 70% of the purchase journey happens before before the buyer committee or the buyer group actually talks to a salesperson, right? Which means they do their own research through self-serve content, and and the channels become very different, which means they consume on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, and they don't care if it's a B2B or B2C. That remarcation is not there in their mind, right? It could be a WhatsApp forward also. So the 70% of the discovery research has already happened. So when they go to and talk to a salesperson, they already have a day zero list with them, the list of vendors that they want to speak to. So from that point of view, ABM becomes important because the one-to-one ABM, right, typically kicks in after the conversation happens, right? But the one to few or the cluster based ABM should start some stages before that, when they're in that evaluation, the research phase, the 70% of the time when they're dark, right? When you don't see them. So you need to get discovered, you need to surface yourself. So how do you do that? That is your demand gen blends in with your one to many ABM, if I may put it that way. So yeah, so ABM will remain valid, but the one-to-one approach has to be layered with a one-to-many sort of an approach.
Interesting take. So 70% of the buyer journey is probably already happening today, like much before when someone is already speaking with a sales team. What's happening in this? I mean, like if you, I mean, Vivek, I mean, just to give to get your perspective, right? Like, I mean, if you are searching for a solution, you're like you have the budget allocated, you have the strategy, you have execution. I mean, you have the exec check, you have the go from everything. How do you go about how do you go about actually evaluating these folks? Like, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be just a Google search. So just want to understand how that's actually playing out today.
See, again, in my experience, 80-20 principle is everywhere, right? So the audience, 80% of the challenges, solutions are known. It will be a repeat vendor. You don't have to boil the ocean over here. It's very it's very simplistic, right? 80% of the things will be carried on. You won't. It's as easy as that. If you have one brand of tea, you will continue with that, and that is a reality in any sector, in any industry. Vendors churn is one of the biggest costs. People don't want to churn vendors, any vendor for that matter, however low cost they may be. They don't want to churn the vendors. They know, because they know the pitfalls, the highlights and lowlights for this, right? So, but coming back to the problem, most of the problems are legacy. Challenges are keeping. It's these 20% of the new ones, or if I have come into a new role and there's no one to mentor me, or there has been an acquisition, merger, something that is a micro level event rather than a macro level event, right? Within the company or the organization, or I am going into a new geography, or I am completely different product. Then this question of evaluation and these things come true, right? So I think that the figure that Sanat was putting, 70%, is the overall number of all of these things. In new scenario, I still believe a lot of CMOs still want to talk to a lot of people, because see, everyone is considered a peer in a marketing group. I don't think people look at it from I have 20-year experience, I have a 5 at least in marketing terms, right? People are more, they don't know. Reading takes a long time. I mean, I came here for 1 hour. I've learned so much that I didn't know, right? And I couldn't have known if I could read a blog and all. Attention span is 5 minutes. 15 is a pretty wrong number. 5 minutes is the attention span. So these are the things that, so this is also digital discovery, right? This is also a format for digital discovery or research, if you ask me. So yes, the trend is definitely there, but the channels and the mediums are a lot. I can delegate these tasks. If I didn't come to this, I could have asked one of my team members to come and hear and learn over here, right? So you will have to just leverage the resources that you have. And again, solve only for 20%. You can't solve, you don't need to solve for 80. 80 is like just keeping the lights on kind of a thing, and you already have solved it. There's no point in creating a problem for yourself. Focus on the 20% which are new, or which will really make your career, make your OKR for the year, is how I would look at it.
Reminds me of something that Sehwag said. Says, pick the 2 balls from the over that you want to hit. You don't have to hit every ball. Anyways, so just Gargi, just like give us a brief overview of what you've learned. I think maybe just started out, it's been a year and a half. What you've learned, and I think so we're looking at it from a different perspective, and I think you're looking at it from a different perspective. Just give us a perspective of someone like coming in new to ABM, and I think just learning, understanding what this is working. Just give us that perspective. I think we want to understand, like, when you become a CMO, what are you going to do?
Thank you, Abhishek. So yeah, it's been like super interesting hearing all of you, especially the part where Sanat mentioned how Gen Z is responding to all these salespeople. Uh, I think it's very interesting to hear about how companies um, outside of Recotap are doing ABM, especially enterprise companies as well. Because at this point where I am at, the way I understand demand gen and aligning with sales and everything, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple because my whole team is aligned to what ABM is. I don't need to get their buy-in. I don't need to prove to them that ABM will be beneficial for the sales team as well. So I can understand now that I come from a context where doing ABM is much simpler than doing it in some enterprise company. Another thing is, I've actually started thinking with all the conversation that's been happening. I've actually started thinking if ABM would evolve to be a more of a role that goes towards sales than marketing, right? Because it's a lot more focused towards accounts, and sales does exactly that, much more focused towards accounts. Uh, Meanwhile, marketing, when we talk about ABM, we want to be able to enable sales, right? We want to be able to help them first get a demo, then close the account. So if maybe down the line when I become a CMO, I would introduce a concept like that, where there's something called sales enablement, a little separate from something of a demand generation effort, which also I feel is equally important as ABM, because you need to keep your pipeline robust. You need to help people discover you, cause a sort of an ecosystem where everything's there for them to enable them to make the decision that, okay, these seem like people I should talk to. So yeah, it sounds very interesting to see how you guys have been thinking about these things. Pretty different from the way I understood things. So thank you so much, guys. This was really fun.
Cool. I think we just have like 5 minutes, so I'll just like quickly like just like to, I mean, thank all of you, and I think just like hand it over to Arun. I think maybe he can take it from there. But I think Vivek, I think thanks for mentioning Sachin. Like I'm a big fan. I made sure that I was there for his farewell match in Mumbai. So I cannot. I mean, someone just reminding Sachin just like brings a big smile on my face. Thank you.
So just to add, I'll share my 2 cents on Sachin. I never wanted any opportunity to see him because my thought was you cannot see God. So I've never been to any of his match.
Is it like never meet your heroes? Is that the kind of thing that you're going for?
God, I mean, hero is different. God, I mean,
I
God
watched him.
level. You see God level, right? So it's God level.
I watched him hit 175 when he played in Hyderabad. It was like crazy. I mean, it's just. I mean, we lost the match. That's a different issue, but yeah.
I can't miss this opportunity when it comes to Sachin. So I have seen Sachin's last to last test match, which was in Eden. Then I took a train with a general ticket, and I went to Mumbai to to be the part of his last farewell match. 2015. So I mean, I'm a very big fan of Sachin. I mean,
13.
and no, 2015. So he bought a house in Missouri. I used to stay in
Oh,
Delhi. It was heavily snowing. I took a night bus, went to Missouri to see Sachin. So he used to live uphill Missouri. I walked like around 4 kilometer when it was heavily snowing just to meet him. I stayed in that place for 13 hours. After 13 hours, I met him on a chai shop, on a tea shop. I have photos and everything. So yeah, that was the time. It was like you have seen God. And for me, he is my like one of the ideal life forms still now. So yeah, I cannot miss. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Vivek is planning to be best friends with you, Debjit, given that you've seen God. Another word of caution, those of us who are speaking highly of Sachin, we are giving away our ages. Right? We're sitting
That,
minutes away.
I was just thinking, Gargi must be thinking, okay, where am I caught?
Yeah,
He's
I was
22 years
thinking
old, by the way.
there was a whole generation of fans like this for Dhoni and now for Virat Kohli, I guess. So you guys are like still at Sachin.
Yeah.
You have no idea what Sachin was for the 80s, I mean, sir, 90s, 2000s, and above.
Gen Zs are
Yeah,
saying, move on, guys.
yeah.
Abhishek.
I don't know, man. But I never thought like a B2B marketing discussion would lead to Sachin and sharing stories of Phantom. Yeah, that's an interesting turn of events. But like, I mean, I would like to take this opportunity to like hand it over to you, Arun, like finish it off.
Thank you so much. And I think, Vivek, thank you so much for taking time and being with us. We expected a few other practitioners like you, right? They couldn't unfortunately make it. So this is a format. So we've tried a couple of times, 3, 4 months ago, and then we wanted to just sort of use this to like really come on and talk about our daily problems, right? Whatever we've learned, what what are those things that we can give it back and things like that, right? So I think it has served the purpose well, and I think I really like the format, right? I think all of us got to speak except for a couple of guys like Vignesh and Akash. Maybe you can take a minute or so if you have any thoughts to share or any feedback to
Sorry,
share.
guys.
But yeah, so we hope to do this, if not weekly, at least fortnightly or whatever. Like whenever you're free, you're welcome, Vivek and others. So it's just like jammed, and named for a reason like this, right? So there's no structure to it, and I think all of us, maybe at some point of time, it goes into debates. It gets sort of uh, like a Republic TV kind of a mode at some point of time. Or now moderating and then letting
Let's
the
not do that. Let's not do that.
fun too. Yeah, but I think this was like very informational, at least for me. I think we will keep doing more of this.
Nice.
All right.
Thanks, folks. Thanks, Ajay. Thanks, Vivek. Thanks, Anand. Thanks, Gargi. Thanks, Vignesh.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was really interesting.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank
Vivek.
you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks, Anand.
Bye.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
folks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining.